Hey, what's up, Matheus? This is going to be a quick demo for you for your Inception Elite. I was going to do this in the morning, but because I've got this done now, I just wanted to go ahead and get you this demo. As you know, this was a reinstall from a previous company that charged you $2,000 to do it. I'm not going to name the company. I don't really do that on my videos. A few people have on my Facebook page, and they were right. But what I found in this guy was not worth $2,000. First of all, the PCB in here that was in here previously, it didn't have a PCB holder. So you can see that I've got a 3D printed holder that holds that in place, and it keeps it centered so that when you put your blade in, obviously your blade PCB lines up with your pins evenly and everything works well. The one that was in here was glued in and it was off center and it was tilted. And it was in the holder for the in-hilt LED. So I took all that out. I took your LED holder out. I did shave it off and filed it down, but I needed the bottom piece because the LED holder and the threads are all one piece. So typically what I do on something like that comes all in one piece, I'll take it and I'll lop it off even, file it, sand it, get it all nice and smooth. That way I can still put everything on here. I ended up taking a threaded piece and JB welded it to the emitter. So that way it became all one piece, but it was able to accept a PCB holder for your NeoPixel. That makes it pretty universal for any 1-inch diameter blade. So that's what we did there. Your switch housing, I did reuse the switches that were in here. You know, although the wiring was a bit atrocious, took the wiring off and just rewired the switches. Your box, you can't really see it right now, but the box that holds the two switches underneath this clamp card, it had a lot of glue on it and stuff like that. So I cleaned it as much as I could, but I did reuse it because it did fit in here. Ran my own wires, PTFE wiring throughout this guy. So you're nice and safe there. I did have to file down and sand down the bottom of this card on the back here for your auxiliary. So your front right here is going to be your power, and then back here is going to be your auxiliary. I can hear it and I can feel it. It's not going to probably pick up on the video, but when you get that in your hands, you'll feel it. It's pretty easy. If you ever do need to see it, I mean, you could take this card and you could slide it forward. You can see one button here, one switch here, and you've got the exact same thing over here. You do have a little bit of bending here. It was a little beat up. I tried to fix that as much as I could. I think I did a pretty good job with how it looks now compared to how it looked when it got to me. This is installed with the CFX. So I used Smuggler's Outpost, 14-pin PCB. I'm part of Smuggler's Outpost, and even if I wasn't, these PCBs are great. So let me show you what I mean. So to get to everything, we want to unscrew this pommel cap. It is tight. It's meant to be tight, and I'll show you why in a second. So we're gonna take this pommel cap off. I'm just trying to make sure I don't drop it. What you'll find is your speaker right there, and it's got a 3D printed handle on it. I put that handle on here so that you could pull on it just a little bit and get it started to where it pops out right here, and then you could pull the rest of it out. So actually I got it out to about right here, and then I'm gonna just pull the rest of the chassis out just like that. Completely removable chassis, no wires, right? So here's your 14-pin male side PCB. Everything's connected to your board underneath the board. And then when you look in here, you'll see that female PCB that all these pins connect to. So in order for this to be in a perfect alignment and these pins not to get off kilter and touch one of those traces that they weren't supposed to, I made this guy super tight, right? One thing I did use to clock this guy was I put a channel on the side of your chassis right here. And I used that channel to go along these two greeblies right here. So if you can, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch it in there, maybe just barely, right? But on the side in here, these greeblies actually stick into the chamber a little bit. So you're gonna have to line up that channel on the chassis with these greeblies. Let me see if I can switch my hands. So you see these there, and then this channel here. that channel slides right past those greeblies just like that. And we'll do that in a second. What else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so everything is really tight, and it's made like that so these pins don't get off kilter, right? You got a CFX board right here, removable battery set up. So the spring side is going to be your negative side of your battery, and don't ever put your battery in backwards. And then a 28mm bass speaker here with a cap on it. So we're going to go ahead and throw a battery in it. So while putting in the battery, and I will send you one, what I like to do is, because everything is so tight, the sticker on your battery, I will put it in the battery cradle, like this.
I've got a feeling that things are about to get pretty nasty around here.
So that sticker is down up underneath your battery cradle. You can take the sticker off the battery if you like. I don't like doing that. I send you a brand new battery. You do with it what you want. But for the purpose of this demo, I'm just putting it inside the battery cradle. So now I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to line up my channel with these two greeblies, right? Pretty easy to do. It is a snug fit. But once you get it past, there's two places here. You got one ring right here that's like a 0.99 inch, another ring right here, and then this entire body of the grenade section is 0.99. So you're going to have to make it. Once you make it past that first one, the rest of it's pretty easy. And then it's a snug fit, but it pushes all the way in. Now you're going to push it all the way in until you get to about right here. You'll have that much sticking out. And it's supposed to be like that. So I made it this long so that when you put this pommel cap on, it actually presses up against this handle, keeps the chassis engaged and forward, and those pins engaged on the PCB that was up here, right? Hopefully that makes sense. And then we'll just screw this on. That way everything stays engaged. You don't lose power, you don't lose any functionality. And then when it gets tight, you can give it a little bit of a twist, no problem. So it's not going anywhere on you. So we're gonna wake the board up.
I've got a feeling that things are about to get pretty nasty around here.
Activation. Choose smooth swing. Auxiliary in the back. It's about right here, right? This is for blaster deflex. If we hold it down, we get blade lockup. And we'll turn it off. I used CC LEDs or CCSabers pixel LEDs in this guy. I like these guys a lot. Every time I've used them, they perform well. As good, if not better than the stock ones. You know, they're just my preferred LED system. So we're going to throw a battery in. But before I do that, let me talk a little bit about the, there's actually a second chassis in here, right? It's in this grenade section. It's about this long or so. And it holds your female PCB and then all the wires behind it. I had somebody ask me about this, so I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about how I wired this up, even though you may not care, just for anybody who might care. I take that guy and I wire it up outside the board. So I've got my 3 wires going for the pixel PCB, and then my 3 wires for my switches, right? My activation, my auxiliary, and then my common ground. So that's 6 wires that I wire up to that PCB on the outside and put it on that chassis, and then I slide everything in. So you can't see it now because I got the chassis in, but because it's sitting back here and your switches are over here, the trick to this one was I left a gap on the top of that chassis where I ran my switch wires back. And then I ran your switch wires very tightly up along the top roof of this chamber, basically, right? And then all up here to your switches. And then I wired your switches really tight so there was no slack on the inside. And I'll take that chassis back out and I'll show you the front here in a second. There's a gap in that chassis in the front too that slides right over your switch section or your wire section so nothing gets caught up. And that's how I wired everything, right? So I left my wires long, put my chassis in, locked it in place, and then I cut my wires down, wired in my PCB, kind of twisted my wires, and there's just a tiny bit of wire slack in these 2 neck pieces right here where I was wiring right here and then had to put my holder in. So because this is a thin neck, you know, thin necks typically don't have a lot of blade depth. These Inceptions really do not have a lot of blade depth. I used I modeled up the smallest height PCB holder I could possibly get to fit in here without the solder joints touching the metal. And there's still not a whole lot of blade depth going on in there, right? But there's as much as you can possibly get. So you can see your blade retention screw right here. And I've got a 1-inch test blade that we're going to put in it. Now my test blade's kind of loose because I've sanded it a lot. This guy is probably going to work fine with a brand new 1-inch blade.
I've got a feeling that things are about to get pretty nasty around here.
Let me make sure I got it right.
Go and pray that I find your master before he finds you.
So there you go. Activation, and then we tap it for blaster deflex. Tap your auxiliary. Or hold it down for blade lockup. Now if you want to change colors when you're inside of the sound font and the blade is on, you want to hold down your auxiliary and twist your wrist.
Spectrum.
You're here, Spectrum. Now you can actually twist your hilt and you'll get different, every click is a different color, right? And then when you find one that you like, let's go with a green, just tap a button. You'll hear that sound and now you have green. This has a slight flicker in the blade. If you're looking for something a little different, you can, I gave you about 21 different blade profiles on here. So we'll want to hold down our auxiliary and twist our wrist again, but this time keep the auxiliary held down.
Spectrum.
Keep holding it.
Blade profiles.
You hear blade profiles. Now you can twist the hilt again. Probably want to see the blade and not my face, right? Sorry. But every time you hear it click, it's a different blade profile or a different blade effect. Some of them don't pick up too well on camera, but other ones do, right? So that one's picking up pretty well. And then the same concept, right? So you're twisting this guy, you find something that you like, just tap a button, just like that. And then you have that blade effect and that color for that sound font, just like that. Now, when you want to get to a different sound font and the blade is off, hold down your auxiliary button, just like this.
Sound bank selection.
Now you can cycle up or down your menu with either button, right?
Exit menu.
The force is with you, youngins. This party's over.
So you want this one, so we'll take either button and we'll just hold it down.
Let me help you to know the subtleties of the force.
Just like that. So that's pretty much your saber. I'm going to take this blade out and then I'm going to take the chassis out. I'm going to show you how to take the chassis out one more time when we have a battery in it, right? So now that we've done, like we're all done playing with it, we want to take this battery out. We're going to unscrew this guy again. Now, this handle that I put on the speaker, it's here to assist you. It's not here to yank the entire chassis out. It's here to get the chassis to a point where you can actually grab the sides of it and pull the rest of it out, right? So we're just gonna give it a little bit of a tug, get it to about right there, and then we'll just pull the rest of the chassis out just like that. And then the battery comes out pretty easy. You just wanna go from the positive side, pop your finger in there and pop it right out. Now, if you look at this chassis, if I can get it right, you see the, I've got a piece of it missing here, right? So it's got that much of a gap on the top, and that gap is what slides over your switch wiring, which you can just barely see it in there. I tried my best to get it very tight and very up against the top of this guy. So it's not hanging down or looping or moving on you. It's very tight in there, and it's not going anywhere on you. I probably slid this chassis in and out 50 different times testing this guy before I make these videos, and every time it stayed right in place. So we'll take our battery out. We'll take our chassis, put it back in. Just remember, line up that groove that I've got in the chassis with these greeblies. Just like that. Push it right in. Just like that, and then we'll throw our pummel cap back on. And it's as easy as that. Yeah, I mean, that's your build. I hope that it came out the way you liked. I hope you're a lot more satisfied with this than you were the last one. And if you got any questions, let me know. Thanks, buddy.